Just finishing my coffee real quick, and then we're gonna get to the board here. What's up, Raya? How you doing today? So we already have all the parts set aside here. I don't know if I'm gonna do all 5 boards, but we're gonna get on with the show here. So we're doing the one knob fuzz today. It's pretty simple. It's probably gonna be my first pedal that I start to sell here. But this is what we're working with. A couple transistors, more resistors than anything. A diode or two, and it's pretty simple. This is what the board looks like when it's populated. I'm not using those exact transistors because I don't have them, but we're using an alternative. We're using BC337. It said on one of these pages that there was a few transistors you can swap out. So we went with the 337. We already have our soldering iron all hot and ready to go, so we're just going to get into it here. See if I can get this more in focus so we can a little bit better. is probably the best we're going to get right now, but you can kind of see different numbers. Maybe I need to up my res actually. I was trying to do it 60 frames, but I don't think it really. So. Unfortunately, this camera only has 30 frames per second. I got some better cameras. I got to dig them out. You only get 30 frames. It's gonna be a big deal. You can read a lot better. And again. All right, there we go. You can definitely see it now. You can see where all the resistors go. That's what we're going to start with. Since it's the smallest part on the board, the smallest parts on the board. You want to start with like the lower stuff first, since it's easier to do when there's not other things populated. So, it says on, we're going to start with resistor 1 and just go down the list. It says resistor 1 is a 10K resistor. So we got all of our resistors over here. We'll just grab a 10K. Then we're going to take the resistor, the resistor, and just bend it into shape before we even put it in the board. Got R1 right here. I'm going to shove this down. Pull it through. And what I like to do so these don't really fall out is kind of just flare the legs out a bit on the other side. And then we're just going to flip this around on the stand here. Usually I just wiggle the legs off like this. You can clip them flush, but if you just wiggle them back and forth, you can. It's easier when it's not sliding in the jig though, obviously. Flip the board back around. So I can see like some solder went through this side, but not really this side. So I'm going to flip it back over and touch back up that side to make sure the solder flows and hits both pads. And flip it back around again. Should probably get the exhaust fan a little closer. It seems better to me. I think that's fine. I'm going to move on to resistor 2, which is down here. It says resistor 2 is a just 820 resistance. So I'm gonna grab one off of this. We're gonna do the same thing. We're just gonna bend it like last time. We're gonna get it into the resistor 2 slot here. That one looks fine to me, so we're just going to go ahead and, instead of wiggling them off this time, we're going to go ahead and just snip them off. Resistor 3, which is right here, says 2.2K. So look for the 2.2K. Now I do got an exhaust fan going back here and pulling these fumes away from me. So you don't want to be breathing this stuff in, guys. To grab my other snips. These ones aren't that great. They're not that sharp anymore. We'll go and clean up the legs after we solder everything into place anyway. So resistor 4 is right here. R4. They paper says 150K for that resistor. So I went ahead and just put all these aside and marked them first so I didn't have to go through them to make it easier, but usually these come in like bigger books. Rolls or whatever you want to call them. We're almost through the resistors. There's only 6, so we only got 2 more to go. So resistor 5 is at the bottom here. Oh, 6. For that, they want 1K. So this board's from Guitar PCB. It's where I order most of my boards. I'm not sure if they'll have the 1 knob buzz in stock, but they do sometimes. Same deal, we're going to bend the legs down again to make it easier. On the R5 right here. That one didn't quite solder in the way I wanted it to, huh? I mean, it's fine being up high, but I'm gonna push it. I'm gonna heat it up and push it down. But it didn't quite hold itself in place. Sometimes I use blue sticky tack on the top, but if it gets too hot, it'll stick to the resistor, and it just makes a mess. Try not to burn myself here, as the magnet picks up all my resistors. There, I got the side pushed down, so. Alright, we have one more resistor left. Resistor 6, which is a 1.8K. And it's right here, it's the last one left in the row. Not all pedals have the resistors in the same row, this one just is kind of simple that way. So it makes it easy to keep track. It would help if I screwed it. Okay, so that was the last resistor. Clean the legs off of it. All right, the next thing we're going to do is capacitors here. There's only 2 electrolytic capacitors. The other 3 are regular capacitors. So, capacitor 1, which is this square up here. I'm going to have to flip the board actually. We might have to adjust the stand. So capacitor 1's up here at the top, right next to lights here. For that, they want 100 nanofarads. We can get all these resistors out the way. So we have 3 regular capacitors and 2 electrolytics. So 100 nanofarads is this 104 right here. So we're gonna, since there's only 3 of these, I'm just gonna go ahead and seat them all and then just do them all at the same time since they're not really close to each other. Capacitor 2, which is capacitor 2. I think it might be hiding. Yeah, I think it's back here. So let's actually do 1 and 3, and then we'll move the vice and do 2. So C3 is 220 nanofarads. I think they're both the same, right? They're both 224. That's 221. So it's just 224 right here. I'm gonna put it in 3. I would have liked to done them all 3 at once, but the way it is on the board just wasn't possible here. So we're gonna go ahead and snip these legs. So capacitor 2 was indeed up top of capacitor 1. So I'm just going to go ahead and vice it in here with it sticking off the edge. Go ahead and do that one. Capacitor 2 is 220 picofarads. This one. I'm not even sure. No, it is. It just looks like a 4. It's a 1. Squeeze it in here. This spot's a little bit smaller than the others. I guess they were expecting me to use a ceramic one there, I guess. It's going to stand up a little taller than the other ones just because it's too wide. So I can't really pull it flusher. That's fine though. You definitely don't want these legs crossing like this. We need to bend them the other way. I must have grabbed the wrong one. Bend them the wrong way. I'm not even on the thing anymore because I got it on the edge, but back here. But we got it right here. Let me clean up these legs and then we'll get to the electrolytics. Stop getting caught. Still more leg on there than I would like. We'll get flush cutters at the end or before we put it into the actual pedal. But you see, we got the 3 capacitors on here. The 2 electrolytics go in C4 and C5 here. You can see that it specifies its electrolytic by having plus and well, in this case just a plus and not a minus side, but it tells you which way to put the polarity. That's nice. So C4 is 10 microfarad. Oh, it's this one right here. It's 10 UF. That's 22 UF. Excuse me. Wrong one. Sorry. This one. It's the 10 UF cap. Put it around actually. It's rated for 50 volts, which is more than you'll put into a pedal. Like the most you'll probably put into a pedal is 18 volts. We want to make sure we put it in the right one and the right polarity. So it goes in C4 here. And you can see on the electrolytic capacitor that it has a line on one of the legs, the shorter leg, which is specifying this is the negative side. So the positive side will be the longer leg here. So we'll put where it specifies the positive side. This is why you do the smaller stuff first, because when you get really tall stuff on the board like that, it makes it a little bit harder to get down flush. and take care of the legs, and then we'll do the next electrolytic. So we are indeed now at the 22 UF capacitor. It's smaller, but it's only rated for 16 volts. Now, this pedal's only going to be 9 volts, so it's fine to use one that low. You can use one that's rated higher, but you don't have to. Same thing with this one. The negative is on the side with the straight with the smaller leg, so we're going to make sure the positive leg, which is taller, goes in the right side. That's it for the capacitors. There's only 5 of them. I'm gonna clean the legs up, but as you can see, you can see there was only these 5 capacitors. There's not really a lot left to do. We got a diode, we got 2 transistors here, and then we're gonna go ahead and solder the LED in, which would be right here. We're not gonna use a triple LED because I don't like to have the light on when it's off. Just personally, if it's a bright light, I don't like that. So we're gonna use a red one and turn on when you have it on. So we're nearing the finish line with this board. Let me clean these legs off here. There's a lot of off-board wiring when you go put it in the pedal, but this only having one. Oh yeah, I guess I got to put the knob on. So there's one more thing than I said, which is just a resistor, but it's a variable resistor. And it's looking good on the back. It doesn't look like there's any bridged solder or anything. I am going to clean those legs sticking up off just because I don't like a lot of it off the bottom of the board. But it's looking pretty good. So just poked myself. That was kind of. That's why I don't like the legs down there, man. We'll get you. Anyway, we're gonna figure out what's next here. It looks like they want us to do, well, if we're going in order, not they want us to. We're gonna do the LED here. The status LED is in the front or the bottom of the board. I guess it depends on your perspective. Throwing boards here. You can see down at the bottom, right here where it says D1, which means diode 1. Because LEDs are a type of diode, they only flow in one direction, like an electrolytic capacitor. Think of it like that. The only difference is this emit light, and this actually stores the energy in the cap. So, but they are both a diode. So we're gonna go with D1. It's showing 3 here. We're not going to use the one that has the white square. That's if you use a triple leg LED, so it has a light. It's a different color when it's on as opposed to when it's off. So that leaves the middle as the positive, because it would be positive in the middle and a negative leg and a negative leg here. On this LED, you can see the longer leg is the positive side. And if you look at it from the front here, there's a flat part on the side right here, which specifies that's the negative leg, which is the shorter leg. Not all LEDs will have that, but most will, indicating that's the side that's negative. So we're going to go ahead and, which is right here, we're going to go ahead and put the positive in the middle. I kind of don't even want to set the LED in, actually. I'd rather put headers so I can have more control over where the LED sits in the pedal. So for teaching's sake, that's what it would be like. The positive would go in the middle. But I'm going to go ahead and just take some headers here, and I'm going to just put some headers here so I can run an LED to it when I go to put the pedal together. Let me snip off 2 of these headers here. So we got the 2 headers that I want to have put there. Just stick them in the smaller side down, because the LED would normally be coming up this way. And there's not really any legs to bend to keep it in the spot. So I like to use blue sticky tack. What I'll do is I'll just sticky tack the header in place on the top before I flip it. Now, if you get the header heated up too much, it will start to melt the sticky tack, but it's a pain in the butt not to use it, honestly. We got our 2 little headers poking up right here. We gotta solder those to the appropriate pads. Got those 2 headers in place, and that'll let us just run a LED with a wire that has like bridge pins that I can just. That way I can run the LED to wherever part of the case that I want for the artwork. I haven't designed the artwork yet. I haven't set up my laser engraver, but that's on the list. So what they want us to do next is the other diode, which is an 1N5817. So this is a polarity diode. So if you were to plug it in the wrong polarity, it blocks it from coming in. Because just like I said with the LED, diodes only run in one direction unless otherwise specified, like a double diode or whatever. And usually they're just stacked in parallel. But the side that has the band is the side it won't come in. That makes sense. So when you go to put a diode on a board, they have which way to put the line. It's very important. Just like the resistors, we're going to go ahead and just pre-bend the legs, because the legs on these are a little bit thicker anyway, but harder to push down. We got our diode here. Take the blue tack off the header pins there. So diode 2 is right here next to the clamp, right here. And as you can see, the line's going it's going this way. So make sure to put it the appropriate polarity. I'm gonna have to put rubber grips on this mat next time because it is sliding all over the place and giving me problems. But we'll make do. Get these this diode soldered in place here. And the last two things, well, there's three things we got to do. Two transistors and one pot, one 500 500K pot, I think. Go ahead and clean the legs up first. Flip it back over. So just right down. Sorry. All right. So next we're gonna do these transistors, which is labeled as Q1 and Q2, right here. Remember, we're using a different one than the diagram here. The diagram, it shows that it's using a BC109Cs and a BC108C, but we're swapping them out for this. What is it? A BC337. Black on black, but it says it on. So the OKF stamp on the board stands for one knob fuzz. So if you're looking for this specific board from Guitar or PCB, it's the one knob fuzz version 2. It says it's based on the classic color sound fuzz box. So all right, so the transistors they want us to use are the tin can type. They like look cylindrical. They're not in the same package, and it shows you the way they want you to put it, but these ones don't show it the same way. It has a flat front to show you which way to face it. So we're just gonna bend the pins. I could put sockets here so you can change these in and out, but I'm not gonna bother doing that for a fuzz. I would rather put a switch, just have them both in there, you know. Oh, if I can get them in the holes. Just trying to line it up here. Down in there. We're just going to go ahead and put these both in and then just turn them and solder them in. If they were expecting to use this package of a transistor, they would put these in a line so it wasn't as difficult to line up. But since I'm swapping the transistor to a different kind, got to deal with it. Got both transistors in there. We're gonna flip them and solder them in. I'm not sure which one's the emitter, base, and collector on this specific transistor, mainly just because it's not labeled. Didn't look it up. But different transistors will have different layouts on their legs, so they're not all swappable. But the paper told me this one would work, so we're going with it. We're gonna clean those legs up. And then basically all we have is the knob to do. We got the back of the board. It's looking pretty good. I don't see any bridged connections. Like I said, I will flush cut all these off before I put it into it. Actually, probably gonna need to before I put in this knob, but we'll see. I'll at least have to flush cut these. What the tops look like. There. This, as you can see, that's how the board looks. It's looking about the same. The only difference is the package of capacitors we used. Not capacitors, transistors. Excuse me. So for the knob, it's the last thing to do on this board. They want a A500K. Got one right here. So what I like to do to put pots on, since they're not long stem pots, you can buy the longer stem pots that'll just go straight to the pedal. What I like to do is I like to make a header, just cut it 5 long, and then take 2 out of them. Like take 1 out every other one, so you're left with 3, and it kind of lines up with these pins as you. Pretty close. What I like to do is I like to actually just cut these little parts that would be stuck in a breadboard off. You don't really need those. Take some sticky tack here. And we're going to tilt the pot. And I'm going to go ahead and there's some small holes right here on the pot where I just stick this through. Sometimes you got to widen the holes, it just depends. Which is looking like we're going to have to. A pair of scissors. We're just going to go ahead and widen this hole here. And then that way, when you have it tilted, you can get it through those little holes. So you can see they're poking up through the top. I like to make them flush here. And then after I got them flushing through there, I just solder them in on these 3 points. You want to make sure it gets hot enough to melt onto both of them. You can see it kind of fuse together there. You'll see the solder flow. Because this is going to be your mechanical connection. So if you have the board suspended and the pedal on this, you want to make sure it holds on. And as you can see, after you solder it, looks something like that. And you have the headers on it now as the pins. They're not quite as long as like the long shafted pots or the long prong pots, but it can get the job done if you flush cut the back of the board up. So we're gonna go ahead and make sure that everything around where the pot's gonna sit here is trimmed off. Also, we're gonna put a plastic cover on the back of this pot so it doesn't bridge any connections because it's being metal on, you know, circuits back here. Push this on there. Now you have this plastic cover on the back of the pot. Now you don't have to do this if you're not going to put it flush up against the board, but since the pot's going to be what holds the board up in the pedal, we're gonna do that. I'm going to flush cut everything that's around where the volume pot goes here, just to make sure it sits as flush as possible. They're not my flush cutters though, so bear with me. Okay, so we got most of them off there, as you can see. Not a lot sticking up. Got it pretty much as flush as we can. So the way they have you mount this is you put it on the back of the board. So the pinout is going to be backwards from if you have it flipped this way. You just sit it here. I'm going to push this header pin all the way down the bottom right here, and then I'm going to make sure it's down in there. I'm having some problems with this though. Give me a second. I gotta go get my flush cutters, guys, or it's gonna be hard for me. I gotta make this long enough. I'll be right back. All right, we have got the flush cutters here, so let's try to clean this up a bit more. All right, that's much better. As you can see, we don't have all the little spiky legs up there anymore. So hopefully this will fit a little bit more flush. We're going to sit it here. We're going to put the headers through the holes there. And we're going to go ahead and do some sticky tack here. Hold it in place. Then we're going to solder the... So I'm going to do some sticky tack here too. And we're going to solder those 3 pins into place here. Be careful because these pins are going to be hot for a minute since you soldered all 3 points and they're kind of connected now. And then you can see that's what I hate about the sticky tack. When it gets hot, it likes to melt into places here. Usually you can just take the other sticky tack and it kind of bonds on itself. But you can see where did not quite clean it up. You can see where the solder came through and met with the pins. You can see a good solder pads down here. So you know those are connected. And they're connected to the respective spots. Now we got this little compact board for fuzz. And it just gets held up on the top of the case by the knob. we can straighten these electrolytics out. They're getting kind of bent because he's a tall boy. But it looks good. I haven't tested it. I'm fairly confident once I get into a pedal it will work. And if it don't, I'll troubleshoot it. So I'm not going to do all those steps, but I will have a video out pretty soon finishing drilling out the enclosures, powder coating them, laser designing them, powder coating them again, and then putting them together. So we'll get that out here pretty soon. Everybody who joined in to watch me do this, thanks for viewing, and I will see you guys later.